Hey, it's Courier Girl here, and I'm sitting in the Kroger parking lot waiting for my next pickup. I have a little bit of a gap of time, which happens in this business. So I wanted to talk to you about how I got in this business. Like, how did I become a courier? And I thought, well, that could be kind of boring, maybe. So I want to relate it to people who need a major career change. Because that's what happened to me. I needed a major career change. Like, not just a job change, but a whole changing career, a whole different field, a whole different life, really. And if that's you, then you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, because you may feel like you are so burnt out and you are so done with what you're doing that your soul is being crushed and you feel like you're literally dying every day, going to work over and over again. That's where I was, and so hopefully this will have some great insights for you too if you're there. Okay, so short background, I didn't always do this courier business. I did a lot of admin, a lot of accounting. I have an entrepreneurial spirit, so I have started and run many businesses, some successful, some totally bombed. But the main theme that I've had over the years is that it was always heavily reliant on computers and the internet and all that kind of stuff. And at some point, about 5 years ago, I started noticing that I was getting some eye strain, and it was harder for me to spend a lot of time on the computer, and everything I did required like hours a day. And so I would try different things, different lighting, different chairs, different desks, different monitors, special glasses, talking to my eye doctor about things. And some of them would help for a little while, but not permanently. And by the time I was getting out of the business that I was in and starting to do this, my eyes were so bad that 10 minutes was too long to look at the computer. I just couldn't do it anymore. My left eye would kind of just like float out into la la land, and the eye doctor talked about doing surgery because the muscle was too long or something. I don't remember. And sometimes it would shut down completely, and you'd think that would have freaked me out, but I'm like, oh no, it's just eye strain. It'll get better when I stop looking at the computer. And I was having other symptoms in my body too. Like, I would get really bad nausea. And I don't know if you know this or not, I didn't know it, but if you have really bad eye strain, it can make you sick to your stomach. So the cure was to go outside, look at nature, focus on things far away, get natural light instead of the artificial light. And again, that helped, but it was getting to the point where it wasn't really helping. And I'm like, I need to have some kind of career that has nothing to do or very little to do with computers. And I knew that I just couldn't do it anymore, but I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I was like in a quandary, and I would think about it, but I didn't have any ideas. Because think about this, if you've done something your whole life or for a big part of your life, it's all over your resume. What are you going to do? Rip up your resume or shred it and just say, well, none of my skills count anymore. It's like you're in high school and you're starting over again. And that was scary to me, because what was I going to do? And what was I going to do and make a living? Because sure, I could have gone and worked at a grocery store, a big box store, or whatever, but that's not really a living. So I needed to make more money than those types of jobs offered. But I thought, wow, I'm going to have to be like the Welcome to Walmart girl, and then I'm going to have to work as a cashier somewhere else another time, and then I'm going to have to do something else another time. Because I didn't want to start another business at that point. Not that I won't in the future, but at that point, it's like, to start a business takes an investment. It takes time. You don't make money the first day. There's a lot of moving parts to it. There's a lot of hats to wear. It's a big deal. And if you want to do it right and be successful, it's a big deal. And I just wanted a break. I'm like, what can I do that I don't have to think. I don't have to be the one that's wearing all the hats and that's in charge. I don't have to look at this dang computer all the time. And about that time, a friend of mine said, hey, come do deliveries with me. Now, he had been in the transportation business, different aspects of it, for many, many years. And so he knew what he was talking about. And I kind of like, I don't know if I want to do that or not. But I do like driving. And I'm okay with being in the car. And it certainly would be easy. And I could look at the sky and the trees and stuff instead of a darn computer screen. And so I thought, well, I'll try it. So I tried it part-time for a few weeks and then went full-time, and I've just been going gangbusters ever since. And I love it. I'm making more money than I made before. And I love the freedom. I love the scenery. You know, I have an office with a view out of my windshield, so all of it's great, and it's turned out to be perfect. At least right now. I don't know if I'll do this forever, but at least right now, it's exactly what I need. So if you are in a position where you absolutely hate what you're doing, this is not a plug for the courier business. I'm not saying, oh, go out and do deliveries, because that may not be your thing at all. But I want to give you some insights based on my own experience that maybe will help you get into the next phase of your life. So the first thing is, you can't just think outside the box. You have to completely blow up the box. What you're doing now, and maybe what you've been doing for decades, is a box of what you know. And you probably can't think too far out of that. Like, okay, I could go to a different company, but then I'd still be doing the same job, or I can, do a lateral shift. I can get out of accounting into like human resources or something like that. But if you are so burnt out that your body is like screaming at you, and you might be having some of the symptoms that I was having, you might be having fibromyalgia or some other kind of autoimmune disease, or you might just be angry at people all of the time. I know I was lashing out at people for no good reason because I was just so mad at my position in life. Or many, many other things that you know that it's just not right, then you're going to have to blow up that box. And that means shred your resume, because your skills most of them aren't going to serve you in your new life. They're just not. I actually physically shredded a resume. I printed one out and I shredded it as a symbolic of, I am letting this part of myself go. Now, I was open to still using those skills, and I still do use some of them, but they are not what I do day in and day out for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So that's the difference. And you have to be willing to really blow that up and let it go in order to let something new come on. And that is scary. It's terrifying. At least it was for me. The other thing that you have to do is you have to let go the idea of status. So let's say that you've been working in your career for 30 years and you have reached a certain level, like a certain position, and that's hard to let go. I mean, what are your friends and family going to say if you're like, oh, I gave up being a CEO to go do deliveries, or to go bake cookies or to something? A lot of people aren't going to understand your internal workings and how necessary, how like you are trying to save your own life by doing this. And you have to make this change. And you're going to hear things like, oh, you're throwing your whole career away. This is awful. How could you do this to your family? How could you, all of that stuff. But what they don't understand is if you are in this position like I was, you've got to make a change, or you're going to end up with some kind of major illness or breakdown, or maybe not even live. It's that serious. And internally, if you're there, you know it. You know that you have to make that kind of change. So there is that status component. And the way that you can get around that is you can either tell them just to F off, or you can say, I'm just taking a break. I need to take a break. I need some downtime. And I'll get back to it soon enough. You may or may not, but I like, the F off method better because I think it's more direct and it will shut them up. They may not like you, but it'll shut them up. So there's that. And then you also have to get comfortable with the uncertainty. What am I going to do? If you would have told me 7-8 months ago, like last summer, that I was going to be doing deliveries and driving 300 to 500 miles a day and enjoying the heck out of it, I would have laughed at you. I would have said, you're crazy. I'm not going to be doing that. My car is old. I don't really, there's no way. I'm not going to be doing it. But here I am doing it. I even bought a van just to do this because it's how serious I am about it and how much I like it. And so you have to get comfortable with not knowing what you're going to do next because you don't know. I had a friend many, many years ago, and she was in sales, and she was really good at it, but it was a lot of travel, a lot of pressure. There were always quotas to be met. It was a high pressure industry, and she just got tired of it, and her body literally broke down, and she was in bed for a couple months. She quit. She was in bed for a couple months, and then to kind of get her feeling better, she started baking, and she made scones. She made really good scones, and she would give them away to the neighbors, and then all of a sudden she was doing it for a bakery and then several bakeries, and pretty soon she had this whole scone business going. Now, if you would have told her she was going to transfer from sales to baking, she would have laughed at you. She would have said, yeah, I like to bake, but not that much. But there she was, and she made a whole business out of it. And in a pretty short period of time. And I don't know what she's doing today. I haven't talked to her in years. We kind of drifted apart. But that's another example of how something can come out of left field and just really grab you and you don't even know. So you have to be comfortable with saying, right now, I have no idea what this is going to look like. I know that I'm done with what I'm doing. I can't stand it anymore. Something else has got to come in, but I don't know what that is. And when you start doing that, you start being open to the possibilities. Like you can see somebody driving down the street with a sign on the side of their vehicle and say, oh, that's interesting. I never thought about that before. It doesn't mean that you even have any remote interest in doing it yourself, but what you're doing is you're opening yourself up to the possibility of something completely different. Maybe you'll end up doing singing telegrams. I don't know, are those even still a thing? Maybe you'll end up baking. Maybe you'll do deliveries. Maybe you will do lawn care. Maybe you will do like planning custom gardens for people. The list is endless, and it may not look like anything you ever thought of, and that's okay. That's actually good because that's going to revitalize you and give you a new life. And the next thing is pursue possibilities. Even if it's a part-time thing, even if it's a one-time thing. So like an example from my life, this is like 5 years ago, I guess, a friend of mine said, hey, do you want to be a dishwasher? And I'm like, I've never been a dishwasher before, but, why are you asking? And she said, well, there was a catering company that she worked for as a waitress, and it was like right around their busy season, right around the holidays, and their dishwasher fell and broke her shoulder. And so they didn't have a dishwasher. And they just needed somebody to get them through the season. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it because I had the time at the time, and I'm like, I've never done this before. So where some people might be like, oh, you're a dishwasher? I was like, oh yeah, I'm a dishwasher. And I had the best time. It wasn't a lot of money. It was like $9 an hour, I think. But it was so much fun, and I had a blast. And I was like a kick-ass dishwasher. My goal was to get everything done so that they couldn't keep up with me because there was dishes coming all the time. And I did it, and they actually wanted to hire me full time. And I said, no thanks, this was fun for a month, but I don't want to make a career out of this. But when opportunities come like that, where you can do a little side gig, even if it's something like totally not what you ever would think you would do, take them, at least temporarily, because that gets your creative juices flowing. That gives you a little bit of cash, and it gives you the opportunity just to expand your horizons beyond that box that you blew up and look at things that you never would have thought of before. I know another man, he was in the corporate world, and he was in a retail, like a high-level retail exec. And he ended up, they downsized, and he took like the package, and I think it was supposed to be early retirement, but he wasn't really that old, and he ended up mowing lawns for golf courses. And he loved it. He's like, I'm done with work by 10 in the morning. You know, I can just put my earbuds in and I can listen to whatever I want, or I can just enjoy the morning. And I'm making good money, much better money than I thought that I would make. And it's great. I don't have to think. I don't have to deal with people. I don't have to have all this pressure. He loved it, and he did it for years until he actually did retire. And so you don't know what might come up. It might be totally different than what you ever expected. So the next thing I want to tell you is to put the word out that you're looking for something different. Tell your friends, tell your associates, tell the person at the gas station or at the retail store, hey, I'm looking for a side gig, or I'm looking for something else to do. What's fun? What's fun? What would be fun? And you might be surprised at things that they might come up with that you never ever thought about. Because your mind works in a certain way, and you've been in the same box for so many years, you're just not thinking about it. All right? And then go try things. Now, I know you're probably thinking, what about the money? Because if you're making a lot of money, then you might be concerned, and rightly so, that you're not going to be able to cover your bills. I mean, if you're making $150,000 a year and your alternative careers that you know about are only going to bring in $50,000 a year or $20,000 a year, you're like, I can't do that. I got to stick with where I'm at for the money. Well, this is a time to plan your escape, to go over what your expenses are. Think, do I really need to do this? Like, are you, say you have the top level cable channel package in the world. Is that because you really like TV that much? Or is that because you hate your life so much that you're escaping into the television? For me, that was video games. I hated my life, so I would escape into video games. And I was spending not a lot of money, but probably more than I should on memberships to different sites because I hated my life. And if you start looking at stuff like that and you're like, what am I paying for because I hate my life versus what is necessary and what am I doing because I enjoy it? Can I move things around in my budget? Can I cut spending that's frivolous? Like, there are things maybe that are related to your job, certain wardrobe, maybe you're going out to eat all the time, that if you had a different type of career altogether, you may not have those expenses. Like me, I can wear what I want. There's some places that I contract with that I have like a uniform shirt, but for the most part, I can wear what I want. And my biggest expense is gas, obviously, because I drive all the time. But I don't have the expense that I had when I was working in an office. I don't have to have office clothes. I am not eating out all the time. I tend to pack food a lot. I don't have like my luxury coffee every morning. I make my own coffee because, and I do stop at gas stations and get coffee, and sometimes I get a luxury coffee, but not to the extent that I used to. I don't feel like I have to keep up with the Joneses or the culture of the business. There's just so many things that are different for me now that I ended up cutting expenses without even realizing it. So if you think about this, if your life depends on it, and if you're in this position, it does, then what expenses can you get rid of? I mean, maybe if you're that serious and that desperate to get out of it, maybe you're going to go so far as to move into a cheaper place, downsize. Tell your spouse or significant other they're going to have to pick up more of the slack for a little while. This is your health in your life that we're talking about, and you have to decide what it's worth, and also what the cost is if you don't make this change. Because I'm telling you, if you don't do it on your own, your body is eventually going to make you do it. And it may be like me, where my eyes just wouldn't let me be on a computer. And it may be some major disease or heart attack, cancer, something that makes you stop. How many stories have we heard about people who, they go, and then a major health consideration just makes them stop in their tracks and they get a whole new outlook on life. I mean, even some people have gone as far as to have near-death experiences. That completely changes how they look at life. But wouldn't it be wonderful if you don't have to go to that extreme? So I'm trying to help you to come up with some thoughts, I guess, a thought process, and maybe some ways of making that change on your own before you don't have a choice. Okay, so I think that's it for now. I talked longer than I thought that I would. I hope I gave you some good information, some things to think about. Please, if you have something to add, if you have insights of your own or ideas about what people might do, put them in the comments, because the more we all share, the more we all succeed. And I think that's important. That's it for now, and I will see you on the road.